So guys, let's talk about what everybody's starting to complain about now. Oh my goodness, people are ready to complain about this deck coming forwards. And without further ado, let's get into the video and talk about it. So the big boogeyman of this coming sets, especially once we get closer to BT18, is going to be this deck. People are complaining left and right already about Shoto needs to get a errata or something, or a choice restriction between Mother D Reaper and Shoto. And they might be right. We might see some differences. But if you take a look right now, it's only got 10 tops. It's not dominating the format in a way that makes it so that it's overbearing. We still have plenty of decks to play with. You know, you got 7 Great Demon Lords that's using Shoto to kind of apply pressure. But the fact of the matter is we're seeing a similar issue that we saw back in BT4, which I had issues with, was that there was 2 very, very different style of play. One was, oh, set con. Now we have to deal with walls in the security constantly trying to get through it. And then you had aggro, which was Rookie Rush, that is Numemon and Ancient Garurumon in this set, basically making 2 opposite sides of the spectrum so that your deck teching can't handle both without a sideboard. And that gets to be a little bit of a problem for a bunch of players, because they're not able to handle an aggro strategy and then you have a full-on control strategy. It is really player dependent, and being able to tech in nice cards is really helpful. But the problem comes down to, you can definitely tech very easily against the aggro, but you're sacrificing consistency and other pieces just to do so. But taking a look at the most recent black aggro list, you have like Edamon and this card forcing attacks, and then you have Shoto making Mother D Reaper a big booty blocker. And then basically what happens is, as you force the first attack, you go into a hybrid, apply pressure, and then just keep doing this until your opponent is dead. Because what gets nasty about this deck is that besides the Mother D Reaper being a big booty defensive value, because Shoto will give, this is not the right Shoto. I want Shoto. This one. Nope, this is not it. Which one is it? This Shoto. Shoto from the EX7 set, giving blocker until the end of turn. So Mother D Reaper is now a 15,000 Digimon that you need to get over. And it's already starting to prove that lists are more and more unlikely to be able to handle a 15,000 DP blocker at a consistent rate. And that is showing to be more and more a problem for players. And the problem comes down to, usually you can handle a Mother D Reaper just fine. You know, you can just play around her, especially because the black version wasn't always scary. You know, before they did this hybrid constant shenanigans, which I'll explain shortly what they're doing now with hybrids, is that Mother D Reaper would just stay on board if you had the ability, using, what was it, Breath of the Gods, to give it a blocker status. And with that blocker status, it just makes it so your opponent basically pauses until they get around your threat. You know, now with the induction of aces and the fact that there are more cards than just Seraphithmon here, this thing, forcing your opponent to attack now becomes more and more of a liability, because aces are annoying to deal with, just because you now don't even get to do things at the start of your turn. You're forced to attack, which shuts off, means now any blanketed ace effects activate, and now you're staring down a threat that you do not want to deal with. So keeping this in mind, taking a look here, Mother D Reaper plus Shoto is always annoying, but with the inclusion of Tai Kamiya into a lot of these lists, that now gives it a draw plus a 2000 DP boost, becoming a 17,000, which even counteracts Magnamon itself, Magna X. This now becomes very important to take into account, that the turtle style of play is becoming more and more prevalent, especially because now Shoto kind of creates that style of play, allowing it. because players sometimes don't have stacks that can get over a threat like Mother D Reaper. You know, 17,000, 15,000 just isn't a magic number system that a lot of decks climb naturally. Most decks cap at 12. There's not many decks that can just go above that. And not saying that it's a issue. I think there's just a fundamental flaw in card design when your DP isn't reaching thresholds that you need to be able to handle a big wall like Mother D Reaper. But, you know, that's here nor there at this point. We know that Shoto Mother D Reapers are being requested as a choice restriction, so this prevents them from being stuck in a deck where now your opponent actually has a fighting chance once the wall is up. You know, that's fine and dandy. But what makes this deck really scary is the fact that you use a bunch of Mindlink Tamers. So what happens with Mindlink Tamers? If you guys are still kind of living on a rock and you're not understanding what's going on here, so when you kind of mind link with a Digimon, you put it underneath the stack. The tamer just sits there for a minute, just until the end of your turn or the end of your opponent's turn. You decide to pull it out. It now is back on the field. Your opponent has to try to answer the tamer and the Digimon threat. Well, if the Digimon threat is forcing your opponent to attack, that means you're most likely going to an ace to counteract that strat, and that kind of just happens. But with this knowledge here, what's happening is that the Mind Link is becoming a spammable resource for hybrid decks. So now that they're just instantly going like, oh, now I hybrid, the Mind Link, I'll hybrid next turn with the same tamer that I just had. You know, where in the normal hybrid shenanigans, Mind Link wasn't a thing. Now you always have a free Digi-Evolution going ready after you have one Mind Link. So all your hybrids will always be on board with one source. Well, you know, no sources unless you Digivolve up. And that's fine. But taking into account that we are looking at aces galore now, being able to force attacks that start a main before you even do anything else besides resolving your starter main effects, becomes very scary to deal with. You know, being able to see blankets like a Valkyriemon ace come down and make your opponent have a bad day because now their rookie lineup is gone. It's just how this is going to go. I know a lot of people already complain about Edamon, but now make a deck that is just centralized on spamming the hell out of an Edamon effect. Now you have to play more cautiously. And again, this deck thrives on the thought that you're playing cautiously, because the more and more turns go on, the more likely Shoto's going to appear. And then Mother D Reaper plus Shoto is just a wall and a half that you're going to have a bad time against. You can't build wide enough because aces do exist and they're going to shut you down and just make you have a bad time. And all this does add up pretty quickly. And a lot of players are very nervous when a wall deck like this exists while there's aggro based in the format that is really fast. And I get it. But what kind of things can we do to help alleviate this? Well, to be honest with you, there's not much. I mean, yes, there is a lot of tamer hate that can help out. Like, suspending your opponent's tamers is kind of natural in this game. I mean, Quartzmon is a little late for a lot of players, and so is like burst mode. But the problem comes down to is that once they can mind link, and then at the end of turn, de-mind link, and then boom, that threat is now unsuspended, and they can try to start poking in again. And that gets annoying for a lot of decks in general, because being able to lock down tamers, which was the main thing to slow down hybrid, is no longer that reliable because Mind Link exists and the Mind Link resets them to be played in their normal unsuspend state. So then you kind of get into blowing up effects. Well, we have a Lucemon you can't Digivolve into at all. That kills the tamer. Black War Greymon that at least kills a tamer or two, as long as it adds up to 6 or less. Then you have Hades Force that is basically able to delete as equal to the number of play costs, which is basically the strongest tamer hate we have, but that's restricted to Greymon decks. Then you have Zwart Defeat that basically is a level 7 that you have to pray you draw into, and it's color restricted to 2 colors. You have basically the unplayable Darkness Bagra that can return all tamers to their owner's hand. Then you have, like, at least we're starting to get cards that say delete 1 on a level 6 body, you know, being able to then delete one of their suspended tamers. Not a bad trade-off. You have like Dorugamon being able to delete one of their unsuspended Digimon or tamers. So that kind of adds up nicely. Then you have like Argomon being Argomon. So, yeah, none of your opponent's tamers can unsuspend. So just a mini Quartzmon effect. Then you have like this Argo as well. None of your opponent's Digimon tamers can unsuspend. You know, being able to lock down tamers really does matter. But like I said, with Mind Link, you kind of can't keep them permanently locked down. You have Lucemon Chaos Mode itself that basically lets your opponent choose if they want to delete one of their tamers. I mean, it's a choice, and the same thing with the other one. It's another choice. You gain some added advantage for doing so, but it's still a little slow and clunky. But at least this one can digivolve on from a level 4, which sometimes helps out. Then you have like Satan mode that basically, by placing one larva from your trash as an empty space in the breeding area without paying costs, delete one of your opponent's Digimon or tamers. It's good. It's just a really slow card because it is a level 7, and it's never good to do late stage popping. Yeah, it can help out if you have a way of free playing your, you know, Digimon for getting to that level 6 faster than most decks. Looking at you, Numamon. But all in all, though, I think that it's time we need a lot more tamer hate in some capacity, especially if we're getting cross heart, more of that coming shenanigans. There needs to be more tamer hate to answer the tamers on board. All this stuff adds up eventually, and a lot of players, even though we have small outs, it's not enough to kind of deal with major tamer threats. And I know that they're trying to keep it limited and restrictive kind of, but at this point in the game, we should be able to apply enough pressure to tamers that your opponent needs to think about what they're doing. But I think with black base, we have a lot of potential. It's tough because even if we want to counter this deck, it's a lot of thought processing and playing chicken, and it gets really annoying pretty quickly. But guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.